This is an AI voice assistant that I created in previous videos, and today I'm gonna show to you what I've done to make it able to analyze Excel and CSV files using Claude 3 AI model from Anthropic. So let's see it in action. So here we have the AI model, so I'm going to select a file. So for example here I'm gonna select this Excel file, and then I'm gonna upload the file. Perfect, the file was uploaded. Now let's make some questions using voice to our model. Hello, so you just received an Excel file. Tell me, what is this file talking about in a few words?
A few moments later.
This appears to be a customer database or dataset containing demographic information about customers. The data includes customer IDs, gender, male, female, age. The dataset contains 7,043 customer records in total.
And that's it. So if you are interested in understanding how this project works and have access to the codebase, come with me until the end of the video. Okay, great. So this is the diagram for the project that we created so far. So the user using the front-end app, which is the application on the browser, sends the voice data to the backend app. So on the backend app, which was made using Python FastAPI, we transcode the file because depending on the format that the file was received, we have some issues to send to the transcription audio service. So we transcode the audio file, and then the transcoded file we send to Whisper, the AI model, which converts audio to text, and then we use this text and we send to the chat memory for the user, and then we send the chat memory to the AI model, and then we send the result from the AI model to an auto generation service. So right now we are using the API from 11 Labs, and then we take the audio file generated from the AI model, which was created from the text, and then we send it back to the user. So this is the diagram for the project we have so far. Okay, now, so to allow the user to send an Excel or CSV file, we're gonna introduce a new route on our backend app. So the user with the CSV or Excel file will send the CSV or Excel file directly here to the backend app. We're not gonna transcode the file or send to the transcription service because it's this text file already. So we're gonna send from the backend app, we're gonna send the text content directly to the chat memory, and the chat memory along the user questions will be sent to the AI model. And instead of using the models from OpenAI here, we also made another change to use Claude 3 from Anthropic instead of using the GPT models from OpenAI. And the rest is the same. The output from the model will be sent to an auto generation service like 11 Labs, and the audio result file will be sent back to the user. And that's pretty much it. So let's keep going. Okay, great. So to use Claude 3 model from Anthropic, the first thing that we need to do is to create an account on Anthropic console, and then here we create an account, and then we go to API keys, and then we create an API key. In my case, I already have a key. Besides having the key, you also need to buy some credits using Claude API. So I had to buy some credits here and also have some remaining credits to use the application. So after buying the credits and creating the API key, you're good to go for the rest of the project. So let's keep going. Okay, great. So back to the code base. So this is the front end that we created so far. So I added a new component here to manage the files to be sent to the model. So if we go back to our code base, so this is the code base that we created so far using React and Next.js. So here on the application, we go to pages. Actually here we have the voice assistant, and then I created a new component here, which is the file center. Inside the file center, it's a pretty simple component. So here I have a selected file, which is a use state from React. We have a function to handle the file selected by the user, and a few events here. So for example, here on the return, we have an input section, and if the selected file exists, then we show the button to upload the file. So here we have a type file, and then we accept only CSV and Excel SX, which is Excel files. And when the user selects a file, this function on handle file change gets invoked. So if the user selected a file, then we set the selected file here from the user. And if this property here exists, then we're gonna display the button to upload the file, which was the yellow button that was shown previously on the demonstration. And we also have another input to disable the whole thing. When disabled is true, we're gonna set this property as true when the user is uploading something, for example, or the user is waiting for the AI response. So we're not gonna show like the input section for a file when the user is waiting for the AI response. This is just to improve the user experience a little bit. And that's pretty much it. So when the user click to upload a file, we're gonna call this function handle upload file. If the file doesn't exist, we're gonna show an alert here. If the file exists, we're gonna call this method onFileSelected. So let's go back here to the base component, which is, let me go back to it, this one. So we're gonna call this function here handle upload file onFileSelected, which goes to this function here handle upload file. We're gonna set that we are waiting for something, the same property here as before, waiting AI output. So we're gonna show the loading effect on the screen, and then here we're gonna call the method to upload the CSV or Excel file to the backend. So on this function, it's pretty similar to the other one. So here we create a form data, we pass the file, and we pass the user ID. So the file and the user ID, and then we create a post request, and then we send the form data to our backend on this endpoint. And let's go back. Now let's go to the backend to see what is going to happen. So this endpoint voice assistant / upload file, which is invoked here. Let's go to the controller. Then we call this method upload file. So here we can see the file which got uploaded and the user ID from the form. So here we take the file extension to check whether it's a CSV or Excel file. And then we call the method to add the file inside the chat history. But besides this, it's also important to mention another change that we made here. Previously, we were using the get response from user using the methods from OpenAI, which came from this chat service, handle get response from user. So here we pass the user prompt and the user ID. So this is the conversation chain that we use from LangChain and OpenAI models. And then here we have a small function to demonstrate the chat history. But now to use Claude 3 from Anthropic, we have to replicate the same function structure and the same signature. So we can change between OpenAI methods and Claude 3 without changing anything on our code base. So we need to create the function called handle get response from user, passing the same parameters by using Claude 3 instead of OpenAI models. So here on Claude 3, Claude AI chat service, I created this new one. So this is the function, which is the same format as the other one. We pass the user prompt, we pass the user ID. And here we have a function to manage the chat memory per user. It's basically a function where we pass the user ID and then we have one chat history per user ID. If the user ID already exists on this dictionary, we just return it. If not, we create a new chat history manager. I'm going to explain to you what this class means. And then we set the chat history for this user ID on our dictionary, and then we return the new memory. So this chat history manager is a simple class, this one basically, where we have a chat history, which is a list of dictionaries where we have two functions, to add a user message and to add an AI message. From the user message, we pass this dictionary, the role user, and the content, which is the message, and the AI message is pretty similar. We pass the role assistant, and the content is the actual message. So we're gonna use this class to manage our chat history. And then here we get chat memory per user. We return the chat history here. Get chat memory per user. And then we add the user message here. And then we call the client.message.create, which is the method from Anthropic. So I had to install Anthropic on my application. So here I also had to install the Anthropic library for Python. And then here I pass the Anthropic, and the API key, which is the os.getEnv Anthropic API key. And for this, I also had to pass the API key that we created on Anthropic console on our .env file here, Anthropic API key. And once we did this, so let's go back here. So here on handle get response from user, we return the result for the user, and we also add the AI message on the chat history. So here on this method, this result will be returned to our assistant service here, get response from user, and then we send the AI text reply to the auto generation service, and then we send the file path for the auto file created to the controller layer, and the controller layer will return the auto file to the user here, file response. But back to the method for uploading a file, we go to handle user file, and then here we persist the Excel or CSV file as a binary file on our local machine, and this is the local file path. And then we also created this new method, add file as context, to our AI message, to our AI chat history. So let's say this method, add file as context. So here we pass the user ID, and then we pass the file path for the Excel or CSV file. So here on this method, we check if this ends with CSV, then it is a CSV. So we call the pandas method to read CSV. Also mentioned that besides the Anthropic library, we also had to install pandas. And there's another library that I had to install as well for managing Excel files. I'm gonna show to you on the video description the libraries that you need to install. So if it ends with CSV, then it's a CSV file. If it ends with Excel SX, then it's an Excel file. Otherwise, we just return an error saying this is a format not supported by our application. And then here we load data frame as a CSV. In this case, we load the data frame as an Excel. We also passed another variable here saying that this is a CSV, and here we say this is an Excel. We also create a buffer to read the content as a string, and then we pass the buffer to a toString method of our data frame, and then here we basically convert the entire CSV or Excel file as a giant string, and then we pass this string as a user message to our chat history. So here we have to load the chat history just like we did for the user message. For the user message, we check the user ID. If the chat exists, then we just return it. If not, we just create a new chat history, set in our dictionary, and return it here on this function, similar to what we did here for getting the AI response. And then we add the user message, and that's pretty much it. This is how we send CSV and Excel files to our AI model. We convert the whole thing as a giant string, and then we set inside the chat history as a user message. And then after this, after sending the CSV or Excel files, we keep going and make a text question to the model. We click here, and then we send our question as voice file to our application, which will arrive here on this method, the one that we demonstrated before, and the whole flow will continue. But since we added the text files to the chat history as well, then we're gonna be able to have the user question and the file inside the chat history, and the AI model will analyze both and return to us a proper response that we return back to the user, and then we play it here on our application. And that's pretty much it. One thing which is important to mention is that if the CSV or Excel file is too big, it's going to overflow the context window for the AI model. So right now, Claude 3 supports roughly 200,000 tokens in the chat history. So if your question plus the file is bigger than that, it's going to break the chat history. So you will have to break the file into smaller files to be analyzed in this case. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to attach in the video description the link for the Codebase for you to take a look at. I hope you liked it, and I see you in the next time.